Ms. Cuyler, you've brought your mother to court in hopes of finally finding out which of the two men in these photographs is your biological father. You claim it's been a lifelong mystery, and you hope it will end today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Mills, you argue that you're certain you know which of these two cousins is your daughter's father, but you say her doubts have torn the entire family apart.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Cuyler, tell the court, how did your doubts begin?
My doubts began as a child, around 5 years old. My mother telling me that Mr. Barrows was my father. He lived right upstairs from us, but he had another family. He would not acknowledge me. I did grow up with a stepfather up until age 10, but I just knew that the man upstairs, my mother told me Mr. Barrows was my father.
And you see him almost every day?
Every day.
And he never acknowledges you?
Right.
Wow.
Also, when I was younger, there was an incident of his girlfriend going back to her children and his nieces and nephews saying that, oh, that's not her father. She said that, and they came back and told me, oh, Eric's not your dad. So I was very upset about that, so I ran and took my best friend to my mom's room. And I remember she had court documents about the DNA testing between Mr. Barrows and my mother and myself. So I showed that to my best friend. I was like, look, he is my father.
Wow.
Also, I remember him taking me to the corner store when I was a little girl. He said, I wanted you to take a walk with me, and he told me, I don't know if I'm your father or not, so that put doubt in my head.
He said, I don't know if I'm your father or not.
He doesn't know.
And what other involvement did you have with him?
He paid child support.
He paid child support?
He paid child support, yeah.
For your entire life?
My entire life.
Ms. Mills?
Yes.
So you told your daughter, the man upstairs, that's your biological father?
Yeah, I told her because we moved into an area where her dad's family was living at. So I knew when we moved down there around her grandmother, her aunts and them, that she was going to run into her dad because I was always accepted by his mother and his siblings.
So when you say her dad, you mean Mr. Barrows?
Yes.
You were accepted by his family?
Yes.
But he never acknowledged her?
No.
I was accepted by his family as well, but just not him.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Why is that? He was paying the support.
When I had Lori, me and Mr. Barrows were together, and he had an affair on me when she was like a few months old. So I got angry at him, threw him out my house, saying, I want nothing to do with you, and I took him to court for child support. When we went to court, he had a choice to take the test or not take the test. The judge told him that. The judge looked at my daughter, looked at me, looked at him, and the judge says, from what I'm seeing right here with this baby, this child looks exactly like you. So either you're gonna pay for the test or not. Either way, if you don't, we're gonna grant her child support, which the judge did grant me child support because he never took the test.
Your Honor, I actually went down to the courthouse earlier this year. I wanted to see if there was proof if there was a test done. And they told me I couldn't see the file because it was sealed. The only person who could see it was Mr. Barrows or my mother. When I told my mother that, she went back and told my sister, why is she doing this? Why is she bringing this up? He's dead, she needs to let it go. Like, how can I let something like this go? I don't even know who my father is.
Well, why did you wait till he died to want to do this?
Why did you wait until I'm 30 years old and never get it done?
Excuse me, y'all ain't gotta clap. Y'all ain't gotta clap.
You lied. Mom, you've lied. You gotta
Lori,
You're
know
a liar.
what?
You didn't have a relationship with him. You had relations with him. You're a liar, Mom. Come on. He didn't live with us.
I didn't say he lived with you.
You said you had a relationship. You kicked him out. My sister said he never even lived with us.
How would Jenny know?
She
was born in
remembers
82.
everything.
She was born in 84.
She remembers
was 2 years
everything.
old.
She remembers everything.
Okay.
So, Ms. Mills, when you tell your daughter, the man upstairs is your father, and she knew he was paying child support for at least a part of her life, was there any other man that could potentially be her father, or you knew for certain he was her father?
I knew for certain he was her father.
It's hard for me to believe her story when there were doubts and questions about who all of our fathers were, so.
How was that? How do you know?
Hello, I talked to his family.
Who family?
Mr. Barrows' family.
How would they know?
Because you hang with them. They were your best friends.
They were not my best friend.
They lived with you.
I just need to get a basic understanding. If he was paying child support, why was there no involvement in her life at all and he was right upstairs?
That's his doing. It had nothing to do with me.
Well, wait,
My
actually
boyfriend-
it does. If you made the child with him, it has something to do with you. And that's why I'm asking you, why would a man live upstairs from a beautiful little girl, pay child support, but never acknowledge her? And if he was here, I would ask him, but I can't. So I need to ask you. You say the family acknowledged you, the family even acknowledged her. Why not him?
Because I took him to court for child support. He was angry about that. He didn't want them to attach his check. He didn't want to pay child support for her.
You feel like he was angry at you for taking him to court for the child support?
Yes.
Now I'm starting to understand part of the story. Miss Cuyler, you also were close with his daughter. He had a daughter living right upstairs. Now, did you two acknowledge each other as sisters?
Not at that point, no. She didn't want to accept that he might have had another child. When I was a teenager, we actually saw each other again, and since then, we've really claimed each other as sisters.
You have. So, Jerome, I'd like to meet this young woman. Please escort Miss Gonzales into the courtroom. If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell.
Hey, ma'am. I'm going to have you come up here and sit right next to the judge of the witness stand. Just go.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Please state your name for the court.
Chastity Gonzales.
Miss Gonzales, you are Mr. Barrow's biological daughter.
Yes.
When you see this young woman, do you regard her as your sister or an acquaintance?
She's my sister. My father paid child support for her for 19 years. She's my sister.
And you remember her? Mm-hmm. And growing up, what did he tell you about Miss Cuyler?
I mean, I started hearing rumors when I was about 6 that I had a potential sister because we lived in the same complex. You know, I was kind of jealous in the beginning because I was his only daughter. So I approached him about it, and he said it wasn't true. He always said it wasn't. He wasn't the father.
Always told you?
Always.
Up until the time of his death, he said, this was not my child.
Yep.
And yet you knew he was paying child support for her?
Mm-hmm. I actually brought that up to him again when we ran into each other again, our teenage years. And I said, wait a second, but you're paying child support for a child that's not yours. I mean, that's kind of confusing, you know? And he's like, well, you know, I don't want you to open up a can of worms because, you know, it's going to come out that I'm not the father, and her mother's going to have to pay all that money back.
Your Honor, that's another reason why I think my mother wanted me to keep this hush-hush. I think she was happy that he passed away, with me not knowing that he was my father or not. That if he was not the father, maybe that she had to pay that money back, so maybe she might be relieved that he's gone.
Mm-hmm. I can't really speak about their relationship because I wasn't there, but I knew that in the neighborhood, Miss Mills was very promiscuous and she had been around with a lot of people. So I didn't know.
So maybe your father wasn't being honest with you?
I did feel like my father wasn't being honest, so that's why it's 50-50 that we feel like maybe we might be sisters or we might not be, because I feel like the people that's responsible in this whole situation is the adults, because I don't think that this should have went this long.
Do you have any evidence to share with the court?
Well, the reason I do think, you know, she might be my sister is because, you know, my whole family, we all have psoriasis. My father has psoriasis. You know, we get it all spots, all different kind of spots.
And Miss Cuyler, do you also have psoriasis? You do?
I went to the doctor. She said it was just a skin virus.
So when you hear about Miss Cuyler also contending with some type of skin thing, you like, that rings a bell to me.
It did.
What else do you have in terms of evidence in the court?
I don't know. I think that, you know, Miss Cuyler and my father, I think they have the same eyes. I think that we have the same eye shape.
What else do you have, ma'am?
I also have his obituary, and her name is not listed on the obituary.
They did not list Miss Cuyler as a child that he left behind.
That hurt a lot.
No.
Even at the funeral, I felt some type of resentment from his other kids, like, we're his kids and she's not. I just felt that way.
I mean, that had to feel awful.
I just been told different stories from his sister that my mother was sleeping with his cousin. That's why he had doubts. So that's why I still have doubts. I don't know.
Did you ask your mom?
Earlier this year, I asked her, I said, why did Mr. Barrows have doubts? And she said she did sleep with someone prior to him. And I asked her, what's his name? And she told me Esteban Tirado. I'm like, Esteban Tirado? Like, and she was best friends with his wife. She slept with him. I don't understand. It was just so confusing. It was a shocker.
I dated Esteban when I was a teenager. Me and his two sisters stayed best friends even after me and him broke up. His mother, his whole family. We all stayed friends. His kid's mother knew I had nothing to do with him. I knew I didn't have nothing to do with him, and there was no way in hell that he's her father. Come on.
You say there's no way.
No way.
But Ms. Cuyler, in your mind, you feel like Mr. Tirado is a possibility because of the stories you've been told.
Correct.
Stories from other people. She believes everybody except for me, and I'm her mother. And I'm like,
because her stories are not valid.
Unfortunately, Mr. Tirado is deceased, but his daughter is here. Jerome, will you please escort Ms. Tirado into the courtroom, and Ms. Gonzales, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know, I can see it's just breaking you down. So you feel like when you look at this picture, you see more of your face.
He has a long face. I have a long face. I really don't know.
Hi, Ms. Tirado. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here today. You are Mr. Tirado's daughter.
Yes.
Biological daughter.
Yes.
You grew up knowing Ms. Mills.
Mills as my aunt.
She was your aunt.
Yes, her and my aunt was best of friends. My mom, my dad, everybody all grew up as brothers and sisters. I can't, because if I was in her position, I would want to know who my dad is too. But I am so upset that Mrs. Mills, my dad, my mom, my aunt, everyone grew up as sisters. We're all in our 30s. It should have not taken to this point. That's what I'm saying.
Ms. Mills, you contend you didn't sleep with Mr. Tirado.
Not since we were teenagers.
So you're saying you did sleep with him, but
Well,
it
how you
wasn't
gonna
during
sleep with your own family as teenagers?
Not my family.
But you grew up knowing us, as telling us we're family. I don't understand that, Miss Mills. Why would you do
I grew
this?
up as cousins, but that was before you was born, any of you was conceived. He treated my kids as his nieces and nephews, and I treated his kids the same way. When I dated your father, we were teenagers. Because we had a past relationship, that don't mean we couldn't be friends.
Like, why y'all didn't resolve this a long time ago? Why is it that he's going 14 years and Mr. Barrows is going I don't know how many years now, and we're all, wasn't this resolved a long time
This
ago?
wasn't supposed to be us doing this. This supposed to be y'all doing
all
this.
actuality, I should not have found this out on Facebook. My family neither.
What do you have here?
I have something that was posted on Facebook. Mrs. Gonzales inboxed me on Facebook. But not only that,
I did. You're right.
Someone else in the family put a post on Facebook.
I don't know who else in the family. I don't know who else in the family put something up.
I get an inbox from her.
I inboxed you because I didn't know what other way to get in contact with you. That's why I'm trying to help her. You're right. But she wasn't able to do it. I'm trying to help her.
Ladies, I think it's time to get the results.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Cuyler v. Mills, Gonzales, Tirado, Mrs. Cuyler, your 29-year wait is over. The deceased, Mr. Barrows, was not your biological father. Okay, honey, you need to sit down before I go to the next envelope.
You said Mr. Barrows was not my father?
No, ma'am, he is not. Are you ready for the next result?
Ready.
Okay. In light of this result, I'd like to adjourn court right now, and I'd like to review them with you in my chambers. Court is adjourned. Ladies, I wanted to meet you in my chambers to go over this next set of results because, quite frankly, this is the first time this has ever happened, and I know how emotional this is for both of you. The results for this particular testing between you, Ms. Tirado, and yourself, Ms. Cuyler, the results were inconclusive, and they need to do more reconstructive work to be able to identify whether or not you all share a biological father. And just so you understand this, I have a statement from Dr. Baird from DNA Diagnostics that will help you. He's the chief science officer there. Please look right over here.
Regarding the siblingship analysis between Ms. Cuyler and Ms. Tirado, our laboratory is still working to determine the results. When DNA testing is done to determine a biological relationship, sometimes it takes a long period of time to determine whether or not there is a biological relationship, and it requires additional testing or extended testing. DDC wants both Ms. Cuyler and Ms. Tirado to know that we will do everything that we can to determine if there is a biological relationship and do whatever it takes to get the results scientifically.
Mr. Hollins, you are demanding a DNA test today because you say you are not the father of Ms. Anderson's 17-month-old daughter, Chloe.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
claim to be paying support for a child. It's not yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Anderson, you say Mr. Hollins need to step up and take responsibility for his actions and his child.
Yes, Your Honor.
So my first question would be to you, Mr. Hollins. Now, how do you end up paying child support for a child that you say is definitely not yours?
I failed to appear to court because I didn't want to take a DNA test and have to pay for it all by myself.
I offered to go half with Mr. Hollins, but he wanted me to pay the whole thing, and he never went to court to take the DNA test. 4 times. He failed to appear 4 times.
Your Honor, that's
4
not right.
times you failed to appear?
No, what happened was my mother had two brain aneurysms. That's the reason why I failed to appear. You see what I'm saying?
Your Honor, the first time he failed to appear, he said he was out of town. The second time, he said he overslept. The third time, his mom was in the hospital. And the fourth time, he overslept and his mom was in the hospital. And I talked to him the day before court, and he said that he was coming.
Why was it important for you to show up for this DNA test? I mean, you want to know, don't you?
Yes, but it was important, but my mom went through that. I put everything to the side. I quit my job and everything, you know?
All right, now, have you been paying this support?
Yeah, I've been paying child support for her child, and I don't even know it's mine.
Let me see that, sir. Thank you, Jerome.
Yep.
So she'll pay child support in the amount of $62 monthly for one child.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you have to pay health care expenses. So the bottom line is you were ordered to pay child support and you've been paying it.
Yes, ma'am.
No, Your Honor. I received $100 from Mr. Hollins.
No, she lying. I didn't pay $400. They take money out my check.
Take me back in this relationship. So were you boyfriend and girlfriend? What is?
At one point in time, we was in a relationship. I liked her. You feel me? I was feeling her.
Was she your girlfriend?
Yeah, she was my girlfriend.
Your Honor, we were in a relationship until another young woman wrote me on Facebook and told me that she was pregnant by Mr. Hollins.
But it's...
Okay, so you were boyfriend and girlfriend.
We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
And you got a message on Facebook.
Yes.
Somebody told you, I'm having a child by Mr. Hollins.
Yes, that she was pregnant by Mr. Hollins and that her and Mr. Hollins was in a relationship. Mm-hmm. I then called Mr. Hollins and I asked Mr. Hollins about it. He thought it was funny. We were on the 3-way with a girl. He didn't know that I was on the phone. And he basically said if he couldn't have both of us, he didn't want neither of us.
That is not how it went.
He thought it was all a joke, as if, I wasn't gonna take it serious.
So you continue the relationship?
Yeah, we continued the relationship. I had a friend who was going out of town. He said, could I go with him and his mother and his daughter? I was telling Mr. Hollins, I wanted his approval. He basically gave me an ultimatum saying that if I went, we were over. I don't take ultimatums very lightly, so I went anyway.
Yana, you in a relationship with me. How you gonna go out of town with a guy that you ain't even told me about? I just supposed to assume and say,
Your Honor, he knew about this guy because
Who is this guy?
It was literally a friend, nothing more than a friendship. But Mr. Hollins, he said, if you go, then we're done.
You don't even supposed to be going out of town with him from the beginning. You in a relationship.
I'd like to hear about your doubts. Why are you doubtful?
Because I told her to be honest with me and she didn't.
I thought me and Mr. Hollins was better than this. When we got together, we were like best friends almost. The things that like has happened since she was born, stuff that's been said, like I never thought that me and Mr. Hollins would be like this today.
Yana,
So
we was cool. We was in a relationship. Everything was good. When she chose to do the wrong thing. You see what I'm saying? We had already talked. I said, no, I don't want you to go.
Your Honor, I went out of town.
must have didn't care that much, you know?
I dealt with the fact that the girl told me that she was pregnant. Why couldn't he deal with the fact that I made a mistake? I dealt with the fact that he made a mistake.
I accept your mistake to a
No, because
certain
you're
extent.
saying that we were done.
Listen, when you came back, I told you, I don't think I'm gonna pay for this. We might need to go half. I knew then. Something ain't right.
All right, moving on. Mr. Hollins, how do you find out Ms. Anderson's pregnant?
Facebook, online. Facebook tell a lot of stuff. I found out on Facebook that she had a baby.
That she had a baby or that she was pregnant?
She had a baby, not pregnant. A pregnancy I didn't never know about.
Wait a minute, so from the point she went out of town with the friend until she actually gave birth to the child, you had no idea she was even pregnant?
No idea.
Your Honor,
How is that the case?
Because I had no idea I was pregnant until the day I had her.
You what?
I did not know I was pregnant until the day I had her. I went to the emergency due to back pain. When I got in the emergency, the lady said you have like a lot of fluid around your stomach. So I said, get it out. And she basically said, are you pregnant? I said no. She then did an ultrasound on my stomach.
Really?
You go through all this, but I don't find out.
So no idea
Yeah.
you were pregnant until the day you gave birth. Not a clue.
No idea. She didn't kick, move. I gained no weight, none of that. It was no idea until the day I had her. I wrote Mr. Hollins on Facebook. Mr. Hollins never responded. I then talked to my best friend and I told her that I wanted to tell him about Chloe. So she called Mr. Hollins. We put Mr. Hollins on a three-way and I told him about the baby and I asked him did he want a DNA test.
Yana.
Because me and Mr. Hollins had not seen each other in over 6 months.
And so were there any other men you were intimate with during the time you were also intimate with Mr. Hollins? Anybody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. And that was sex without protection or with protection?
Without protection, Your Honor.
And the name of that man is?
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams. And Mr. Williams is here in our courtroom today.
Yes, Your Honor.
What made you believe that Mr. Williams could also be the father?
I went on the internet and I found a conception calendar and I put in when did I get pregnant? Because I never was given a date of when I conceived. So I put in when did I get pregnant? They asked for her birthday. When they asked for her birthday, it then took me back to Khalil when I had sex with Khalil.
I have a conception calendar right here. Let me get these dates. The date you were intimate with the other man is what?
March the 30th.
March the 30th. Now your due date was December 4th, 2013. So that was the day they pinpointed. When was your daughter actually born?
December the 7th.
If you go back to your dates of intimacy, you were also intimate with Mr. Williams as well.
Yes, and Mr. Hollins.
And Mr. Hollins.
Yes.
Playing both of us.
And so based on the calculator,
Both of us what it sound like.
it's pointing to Mr. Williams, not Mr. Hollins.
I was intimate with Mr. Hollins maybe like a day or two before I was intimate with Mr. Williams.
See what I'm saying?
Oh, well, we don't need no calculator for that. But now Mr. Hollins is the one that's actually paying the child support.
At the time, Your Honor, I did think Mr. Hollins was the father.
Yeah.
Jerome, I want to meet Mr. Williams. Can you please escort him in?
Sure.
Yana,
Yes, sir.
how can I be the daddy and you then had sex with somebody else 2 days after me? That means clearly you don't know who the daddy is. How you just gonna falsely blame me?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They
But
taking
Your
my
Honor,
money,
this
everything.
situation
You know what I'm
could have
saying?
been dealt
But
with
you the
months
honest
ago
truth
if
is you don't
Mr.
know.
Hollins would have showed up for the DNA
You see what I'm
test.
saying?
Listen, Mr. Hollins, I understand your concern. I do. But Ms. Anderson has a point as well. You had 4 times to show up to do the DNA test, and you failed to appear. You can't really argue about a problem you created for yourself.
I created
Mr. Williams, thank you for being here today. We are here, of course, talking about the paternity as it relates to baby Chloe. Ms. Anderson has informed the court that she was intimate with you around the same time she was intimate with Mr. Hollins within the same week. You remember being intimate with Ms. Anderson, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and it was unprotected.
Yeah.
All right. When did you find out that you could be the father?
Recently, this year after my birthday, after I had turned 18, then she had finally told me.
See, here we go.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
So you weren't involved in the pregnancy, or she didn't even know she was
I
pregnant?
didn't even know she was pregnant either.
Did nobody know?
I ain't heard nothing.
She didn't.
I didn't know.
But I get
How
the blame.
can I tell you something
ain't
that I
go to court.
don't know? If you would have took the DNA test, then you would have found out over a
Hey,
year
listen,
ago.
You had already made up your mind in your head that I was the daddy. Because you didn't tell me about him. Even being in the picture.
So, Mr. Hollins,
what
you're
I'm
saying she had never told you about Mr. Williams?
Never. I'm hearing this now. All this is new. Didn't know him. Didn't know he exists. Not in this.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
when you found out there was a baby that could potentially be yours, how did you handle that?
I kind of thought about it for me. I was like, no, I don't think there's no way. And then I was like, I don't know, maybe so. I was kind of mad though, cause she waited so long after to tell me. Once I found out, I was like, I don't know. I was kind of mad.
Your Honor, I waited so long to tell Mr. Williams because I thought that she was Mr. Hollins. And it never dawned on me that Mr. Williams was a possibility until that day. And when I went back and I did the date, that's when Mr. Williams.
But you
became
say
a
you slept with
possibility.
them within 1 or 2 days.
Yes.
How did you ever think that you could
Because
pinpoint which man
That's the answer
it was?
I'm looking for. How did you even know?
No, I'm serious. In your mind, how did you think you could pinpoint it with 1 or 2 days?
Because I was in a relationship with Mr. Hollins. We were always together. Like, Mr. Williams never dawned on me until that day.
Ms. Anderson, I have to ask you, did you ever think, once you realized Mr. Williams was also a possibility, did you ever say, let me call the court back and let them know there's another potential father? Because if, in fact, they had called Mr. Williams in for a DNA test, he might have shown up, and that could have helped you arrive at your
Honor,
conclusion.
Mr. Williams didn't become a possibility to me until maybe a month ago.
All right. Have either of you been there for the child? She's 17 months old. Does anyone spend time with her? I know Mr. Hollins is ordered to pay child support.
No.
I said the baby.
You have a
4 times.
relationship with her?
He's
I said the
seen
4
her
times,
4
that's
times,
it.
and that's because I brought her to him 3 of those times.
Listen, you went out of town, you pop up, you have a baby. What else new? It's subject not to be
Listen.
mine. And now look, it's subject not to be mine.
And now,
You see what I'm saying?
and now, right, you find out here today about Mr. Williams.
Could
You
have
know,
told me this months ago.
this is what drives me crazy, is to see young people, first of all, y'all too young to be in grown adult situations like this you can't handle. You don't even know how to handle a simple boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, much less bring a baby into it.
Yeah.
This is, you know, children have to know,
Your Honor.
they deserve to know, and they have
Right,
the right to know who their father
She
is.
deserves to know who her father is, and that's why I'm here today. I grew up without a father, so I know how it feels, and I wouldn't want her to go through the same thing.
At this point in her life, at 17 months old, she doesn't know anyone as daddy.
Right. Yes.
Your Honor, I'm gonna be truthful with it. I don't even know how to be a father. I'm honestly not even, I'm still taking care of myself. You see what I'm saying? I don't even know how to be a father. My father wasn't there. You see what I'm saying? But that's not to blame nobody. You see what I'm saying? I just don't know how to be one. I'm 23. If you would have
And
walked
I'm
me through this like how you was trying to walk through it, we could have got somewhere. But you wanted me to just
Okay, I'm
pay for
21
something
and I had to grow up
get
and be a
diapers
mother,
for something that
so-
I don't even know it's mine. So I'm
I had
looking
to
like,
grow up, Your Honor, and be a
what's
mother,
my first
so why
step?
can't he grow up? If he
Well, I'll
would've
tell
took
you what, the
test,
reason
then we
why
would.
he didn't immediately choose to be a father right off the bat is because he felt like he had doubts, and now those doubts have been substantiated here
But
in
he
this
didn't even
courtroom.
he didn't find out about Mr. Williams until recently, so therefore he didn't make an effort at all, period. No
But I
effort
had
was
faith
made.
in you.
But
no
listen,
effort.
ultimately, the person that's suffering is Chloe.
Yes.
You all are running around here having sex like it's an extracurricular activity, like you gonna go to the movies, you gonna go do this. I'm not laughing, Mr. Williams.
I know. You right. You right.
Producing lifelong consequences in the form of a beautiful, innocent human being, does she even say dad? Who's she gonna say it to?
She say dad, but she...
To the air?
To nobody.
That's a shame. Mr. Williams, now, will you step up to be Chloe's father if in fact it's determined you are the biological father?
I don't got a problem with it. She ain't got to
How
worry
about you,
nothing.
Mr. Hollins?
I step up, but how far? I don't know how to change a diaper. I don't know what to do when
Those
she crying,
are
you know
all
what I'm saying?
things you can learn and you will learn if one of you, either of you, turn out to be the biological father. That's something that I will help you with. In the case of Hollins, Williams v. Anderson, as to whether Mr. Hollins or Mr. Williams is this child's biological father, it has been determined by this court that Mr. Williams, you are not the father. Mr. Hollins, you are her father.
Thank you.
I just feel like if she would have kept it 100 with me from the beginning and told me everything, you know, I could have been there. I could at least help. I ain't that type of person. I'm gonna have to take it day by day, step by step, because I don't even know what to do first, you know?
I feel your concern, and I appreciate your honesty that you don't know how to be a father and you don't know what to do first, but I will fill you in on a secret, and Jerome can attest to this. No matter how old you are, there's a part of becoming a parent where you're just not ready. You don't know what to do sometimes.
Yes.
But out of love for your child, you learn. And the smartest thing you said today is, I guess I'll take it day by day. And that's what you do. You just show up day after day.